The morning of day number 17 would be the start of our travels in the southeastern region of France. It would be all things French Mediterranean for the next few days, from the architecture and landscape to the culture and food scene. Our destination in this region, Beziers, would proffer plenty of opportunities for exploration, from the winding cobblestone streets with aerial art to views of the iconic Saint-Nazaire perched on a hill above the city. A hidden creperie, Mediterranean beaches, pizza à la Provence, and several other delights awaited us. Thanks for joining the adventure. After a short train ride from Annecy to the station at Lyon, we made a quick coffee stop and tried to determine where our next train platform would be. Weeks in advance, we had made reservations for this train ride, as it was a bullet train, a transit option which can notoriously get packed out quickly depending on the season and day. Though this footage is time-lapse footage, it really did feel quite fast as we made our way south towards Avignon. By car, it takes around 2 hours and 15 minutes. By bullet train, it takes around an hour. At Avignon, we said au revoir to our ennui TGV, or high-speed train, and ascended into the city with our trusty luggage pieces rolling behind us. Our number one destination here in Avignon was a lunch spot. At the restaurant, I had a great experience. My mom, not so much. Her choice was steak and frites. My entree of choice was a delicious beef stew à la Provençale, and unfortunately, the former turned out to be an unusual form of something near tasteless leather. Dessert was luscious though, chocolate and caramel mousse. After this mixed foodie experience, it was off to do some sightseeing in this historic city. The Provence region has history dating all the way back to Roman times, but Avignon itself is most famous for its Pope's Palace. We only viewed the fortress from the outside, but it is an imposing edifice and the world's largest Gothic structure. The courtyard or square below the fortress was a very calm space filled with tourists, artists, and street performers. We only had a short amount of time to take all of this in before it was time to make our way back to the train station. Though somewhat hurried, I'm glad we were able to have a scenic layover here before moving on to our destination of the day, Beziers. Random but fun fact, we are pretty sure we saw the smallest train station in France on the way. The countryside in southern France is shockingly like the central and southern states of America, so we entertained ourselves trying to discover which direction we were actually traveling. Once in Beziers, we contacted our Airbnb hosts and set out to find the apartment where we would be staying for the next 2 nights. The sky was beginning to darken with storm clouds around the time of our arrival, and though the possibility of getting shocked by lightning didn't exactly enthrall us, we didn't think there was much alternative to hiking in the storm. Because we were out of range of the train station Wi-Fi, we didn't realize our host and hostess were actually driving to the station to pick us up. We did eventually bump into them, but it wasn't until we were in the square outside of the apartment. It was a little crazy in between that point and settling in for the night. So there isn't any footage to document this, but we literally ran through the semi-dark, very wet streets to obtain groceries minutes before the store closed, and then fought with the lock on our door for 30 minutes before enjoying dinner. What is traveling without a few wild and unexpected adventures?
700 revolutions, Joe? Can you imagine 1200?
Even if those adventures are quite wet and even require a dryer afterwards. Morning dawned bright and clear, and we realized that our apartment was right next door to an old basilica. It was quite remarkable looking out the window and having such a story-like setting right before your eyes. We took the morning a little more slowly and worked on whipping up breakfast while we discussed plans for the day. Thankfully, in the grocery shopping race the night before, we were able to obtain a few key ingredients, so we didn't end up having to go out of the apartment for our entire breakfast menu. We did go out for one ingredient though. Fresh figs. After sizing the situation up, my mom decided it was necessary to bring the big guy out and knock down the prize with a broom. There weren't any rules posted regarding the fig tree in the courtyard, but we considered it a great way to appreciate culture and not waste fruit. After breakfast, it was time to begin exploring the city. Because our schedule was wide open for the day, I decided I had time to take out my movie stabilizer and capture footage of the winding streets of Beziers. While wandering through the streets, we came alongside Layon Market and stepped inside to browse the offerings. Though not all of the food stalls were open, the ones that were displayed a plethora of cheeses, all kinds and cuts of meat, garden and farm fresh ingredients, yogurts, flavored honeys, and many different varieties of confitures. Europe really is a delightful place for those of us that love all kinds of fresh and authentic food. Back outside, we continued to put our navigation skills to the test and make our way through the city, passing through historic squares and narrow streets. Most assuredly, these are the most winding streets I've ever seen in one place. For instance, it seemed like you could set out in a northerly direction, but before long you would be traveling southwest and then end up facing east within a matter of minutes. Beziers truly was a great city to discover without having to adhere to a rigid schedule. There are general areas that you aim for, and then it's a sort of maze to conquer in order to reach said destination. This city is technically in the Languedoc-Roussillon region of France, and its history dates back to the 6th century BC when it was founded by Greek colonizers. Shortly afterwards, the Romans set up a new city that was connected with a highway linking Rome with the Iberian Peninsula. Since then, the city has weathered many different seasons of history. Our exploratory route dropped us down to the famous Pont View, a bridge that offers a great view of the famous Saint-Nazaire Cathedral that seemingly stands above the rest of the city. From there, we made our way up to it, and in so doing, stumbled upon a creperie nestled in a little pocket of buildings nearby. Here we tried a unique iced mint drink with a galette or savory crepe and sweet crepe with lemon. It was delicious, and this little spot is a hidden gem. After our little detour, we had an up-close view of Saint-Nazaire, La Place de la Révolution, and other sites within the square. Then it was off to have a glimpse of the Mediterranean Sea. We spent a few hours walking the sandy beach and watching the sailboats enter the harbor while nibbling on a few refreshingly cold scoops of gelato. It was the perfect combination and a very peaceful afternoon. Back in the city, we decided to finish the day off with dinner at a restaurant recommended by our hosts. And it was a lovely experience, followed by a cup of Nespresso at the apartment and a night of sleep. Another beautiful morning dawned as we made our way to the train station. As we were heading down the main thoroughfare, a flower market was beginning to be set up, and we enjoyed seeing the varieties of flowers and herbs. No doubt we would have purchased one or two if there was any possibility of bringing them home with us, but there wasn't. So ended our visit to Beziers. It was off to the midway point of our travels in France, Carcassonne, a medieval city brimming with history and opportunities to make some of our own stories within its imposing gates.